Amazon, not just the largest rainforest, but the most mysterious place on Earth. The Amazon is often known as the largest rainforest on the planet, but the greatest truth about the Amazon has never been its size. Why? Because what makes this place extraordinary is not how vast it is, but how it survives, how it functions, and how it quietly connects to lands thousands of kilometers away. If we only see the Amazon as a giant forest, we miss the most incredible part of its story. So before we journey into the most spectacular places across the Amazon basin, we need to begin with a few lesser-known facts, the hidden forces that shape the soul of this land, and once you understand them, every place we explore later, especially the final destinations, will no longer feel like beautiful scenery, but living stories of our planet. The Amazon is so vast that it almost escapes imagination. The entire basin stretches across more than 5.5 million square kilometers. But what makes this enormous region truly remarkable is not just how far it extends, it's how it has endured through time. It survives through a self-sustaining system so complex that it behaves more like a living organism than a forest, and one of its life sources comes from somewhere almost no one would expect. Every year, roughly 180 million tons of dust from the Sahara Desert travel nearly 7,000 kilometers across the Atlantic Ocean before reaching South America. It sounds impossible, a dry desert helping sustain the wettest rainforest on Earth. But it's true. When Saharan dust settles over the Amazon, it brings phosphorus, an essential nutrient that allows the forest to thrive. Without this natural supply, Amazonian soils would gradually lose fertility, and vast regions of the forest could weaken over time, which means the Amazon does not exist alone. Life here is sustained by an invisible connection between two of the planet's greatest opposites, desert and rainforest. But an even greater secret lies ahead. The Amazon doesn't just receive rain, it creates rain. Every leaf in the forest continuously releases water vapor through a process known as transpiration. A single large tree can send more than 1,000 liters of water into the atmosphere every day. Multiply that by hundreds of billions of trees, and you get a climate-making machine. That moisture rises into the sky and forms what scientists call flying rivers, massive corridors of atmospheric moisture moving through the air. Some of them transport more water than the Amazon River itself. Rainfall in regions thousands of kilometers away still depends on this forest. That makes the Amazon something far greater than just another ecosystem. It is part of Earth's global climate circulation system. Beneath the ground, water flows through branching rivers like veins. Above the sky, invisible currents of air move along remarkably similar paths, as if the Amazon possesses two circulatory systems, one made of water, and one made of vapor, one below the ground, one in the sky. And it is this dual system that allows the forest to sustain life even through long periods of drought. But the Amazon is even more complex than that. It is not a single forest, it is hundreds of worlds existing side by side. Just a few kilometers apart, the landscape can change completely. Some regions remain flooded under more than 10 meters of water for months at a time, others stay dry all year. Some forests grow on nutrient-poor white sand, others rise from ancient mineral-rich soils, where some of the tallest trees in South America reach toward the sky. This incredible variety makes the Amazon nearly impossible to fully understand. In just 1 hectare of forest, about the size of a soccer field, more than 300 different tree species can exist. And a small area of only 10 square kilometers may contain more species of ants than the entire British Isles. That reality forced scientists to rethink how they study nature, because in the Amazon, there is no such thing as one representative location. Every river, every ridge, every patch of forest, could reveal an entirely undiscovered world. And then researchers realized something even deeper. The Amazon is not only diverse in biology, it is not only home to thousands of plant species and countless forms of animal life, it also preserves human memory. More than 300 indigenous communities have lived here for thousands of years, speaking dozens of different language families. Some communities can identify hundreds of plant species simply through observation, others preserve generations of knowledge through oral traditions remembering flood cycles, seasonal winds, and the changing behavior of rivers with astonishing accuracy. And in some of the most remote regions, there are still groups that choose to remain untouched by the modern world. Their presence reminds us of something important. The Amazon has never been just a forest, it is a living civilization. A world that is still evolving, and perhaps, there is still far more here than we truly understand. Hidden beneath the forest floor lies terra preta-rich black soil created by ancient societies more than 2,000 years ago using charcoal, ash, and organic matter. Even more remarkable, this soil continues to regenerate itself today and is considered one of the most resilient human-made ecosystems ever discovered. Even the sound of the Amazon holds mysteries. Some places explode with the sounds of birds, insects, and wildlife, others fall into near-total silence. Dense vegetation and humid air absorb sound so completely that even the smallest movement feels amplified, until everything is suddenly broken by violent rainstorms releasing millions of liters of water within minutes. And then, during the flood season, the Amazon transforms once again. Entire forests become underwater worlds. Fish swim between flooded tree trunks, pink river dolphins move through submerged canopies, and fruits falling from the trees become food for species specially adapted to this changing environment. The Amazon never stands still, it is constantly transforming, like a living freshwater ocean. Understanding these forces from Saharan dust and rivers in the sky to layered ecosystems, and the ancient imprint of human civilization, completely changes the way we see the Amazon, and the next stage of the journey begins in Manaus, a modern city rising from the heart of the rainforest. In the late 19th century, during the rubber boom, Manaus became one of the wealthiest cities in South America. Wealth poured in so rapidly that European architecture, Italian marble, and French ironwork were brought deep into the jungle to build the Teatro Amazonas, an opera house so magnificent that it almost feels impossible against the backdrop of endless rainforest. But what makes Manaus extraordinary isn't only its history. The city stands at the meeting point of two completely different worlds of water. On one side flows the Rio Negro, dark, warm, and acidic. On the other is the Solimões River, lighter in color, cooler, and rich with sediment, for nearly 6 kilometers. About 4 miles. These two massive rivers flow side by side without mixing, separated by a visible boundary as if an invisible line had been drawn across the water. The explanation lies in physics. Rio Negro is warmer, slower, and less dense. Solimões is cooler, faster, and carries enormous amounts of suspended sediment. Because of these differences in temperature, speed, and density, the waters resist blending immediately. But the true significance of this phenomenon isn't visual. This is the place where the Amazon River, as most of the world recognizes it, begins. Early explorers filled pages trying to describe what they were seeing. Today, scientists still study this region as one of nature's most fascinating open-air laboratories. And farther downstream, where the currents finally merge, the darker waters begin revealing another story, one shaped by chemistry, ecology, and rhythms powerful enough to transform entire landscapes. Then the journey continues into Anavilhanas, a freshwater labyrinth unlike anything else in the Amazon, stretching more than 380 kilometers, 236 miles, Along the Rio Negro, Anavilhanas contains thousands of islands, narrow channels, and waterways that constantly shift with the pulse of the river during the dry season. Long sandbanks and exposed islands dominate the landscape, but when the waters rise, the entire region transforms. Floodwaters spill into the forest, opening hidden waterways beneath the canopy and turning solid land into a moving world of water. What makes Anavilhanas scientifically remarkable is that nothing here stays the same. Sediment shifts year after year. New islands appear, others slowly disappear. This constant reshaping influences every form of life. Pink river dolphins navigate flooded corridors to feeding grounds. Fish migrate deep into submerged forests to spawn among the branches. Birds build nests in places that only months earlier were completely underwater. What once amazed explorers continues to challenge scientists today. Each season tells a different story showing how life adapts not to stability, but to change, and as the islands become fewer and the waterways widen, the landscape transforms once again, revealing a river so immense that comparisons begin to fail. The Amazon River is so vast that it doesn't merely cross a continent, it helps shape one. At peak discharge, it releases more than 200,000 cubic meters of water every second into the Atlantic Ocean, enough to fill over 80,000 Olympic swimming pools every minute. But scale has never been Amazon's most extraordinary story. Its real story began millions of years ago. Back then, the river did not flow east as it does today. It once carried water westward toward the Pacific Ocean, until the Andes Mountains rose. And when they did, they changed everything. The slow but unstoppable rise of the Andes Mountains reversed an entire ancient drainage system, forcing the waters to turn eastward and creating the vast Amazon basin that now stretches for more than 6,400 kilometers. But Amazon has never been a river that stands still. It is a system in constant motion. Its main channels divide, merge, and rebuild themselves over and over again. Sandbars appear and disappear. Islands are born and later swept away. Riverbanks collapse and reform under the endless rhythm of rising and falling waters. For the millions of people who live here, movement depends on more than maps. It depends on understanding the river itself. People read the color of the water, the speed of the current, and even the smallest ripples on the surface to recognize depth, hidden obstacles, and invisible pathways. Because Amazon is not simply a river, it is the living transportation network of an entire region. Every day, thousands of boats carry people, fuel, food, and supplies across distances roads could never reach. It is the circulatory system that sustains life throughout the basin. And as the river gradually narrows and the forest closes in along both banks, another world begins to emerge. The Amazon rainforest is often described as a single ecosystem, but in reality, it is countless worlds existing at once. Within just 1 square kilometer, you can find more tree species than exist across entire countries. What makes this even more extraordinary is that the forest survives not because its soil is rich, but because it has mastered the art of recycling life. Fallen leaves, decaying wood, and dense root networks constantly recover and reuse nearly every available nutrient. This closed-loop system allows the rainforest to regenerate with remarkable speed, even after powerful seasonal floods. But the forest doesn't only expand across the land, it also rises upward. Its canopy reaches nearly 60 meters, 200 feet, into the air, creating a suspended world above the ground. Up there, light, humidity, and temperature change dramatically from one level to another, forming stacked ecological layers. Many species spend their entire lives without ever touching the forest floor. Even today, scientists continue discovering entirely new species simply by reaching parts of the canopy no human had previously explored. Then the rainy season arrives, and Amazon transforms once again. Water levels rise, trails disappear, entire sections of forest slowly sink beneath the surface, and that transformation leads to one of the most unexpected landscapes in the basin, Altar du Chao, a place famous for white sand beaches and brilliant turquoise water that appear only during the dry season, as the Tapajos River drops by several meters. Long hidden stretches of sand emerge from beneath the water, because the river carries very little sediment and flows across stable sandy terrain. Sunlight penetrates unusually deep, creating colors rarely seen anywhere else in the Amazon, but this beauty is temporary. When the waters return, the beaches disappear, the forest floods, and the world above water becomes an underwater ecosystem. Fish swim between submerged trunks, they feed on fruits falling directly from the canopy into the river below. That is Amazon, a place that never stops changing, and where change itself is what creates life.